So we're back with another Wrestler Ramble, and today it's what I've been wanting to do for a while. One of my all-time favourite wrestlers, easily, and someone who I'll explain later, who is a reason I am so into the business as I am now, is the man right there. Oh, yep, there, Kurt Angle. Now, I cannot overstate how much I love Kurt. No, I can never overstate it. I think Kurt is one of the most complete wrestlers ever. And that's including in-ring ability, promo ability, just the range of all that. It's incredible. And everyone knows that about Kurt. Everyone knows how good Kurt was. And everyone's, oh my God, Kurt Angle at his peak was insane. Obviously TNA Angle, stuff like that. And then obviously everyone puts out how funny he is. But I don't think it gets the credit again, because I feel like people really switch it over to be like, oh, people don't realise how good Kurt was. When you think, well, Kurt's insane, it's like, well, no, you say it all the time, so everyone does realise that, but I don't think people realise how funny that fucker is. I think Kurt Angle, straight up, is the funniest wrestler I've ever seen. Bro, I mean, I cannot overstate the stuff I've been in tears laughing about Kurt Angle. Look, I'm grinning ear to ear like a dumb motherfucker, because I love Kurt. The A stands for Angle. Shit like that. Obviously, you got the I'm just a sexy kid. That's a classic. The rap versus John. I may suck, but you just blow. Then he's rapping. And then you got the all smother shit, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. And then you got the whole TNA stuff, which is insane. We all know how insane that got, but Jesus, to the point where it's like he was getting his clothes naked, and then the whole show his clothes were stolen, and the whole show he's chasing it with the guy with the mic. It's so fucking dumb. And then you've also got the obvious Booker, I want to have sex with your wife. Jesus, bro, Kurt is the best. I do not give a shit, bro. I think Kurt Angle, for me, is one of the there's no one that I genuinely smile at more than thinking about watching whoever than Kurt Angle. No one ever close. And like I said earlier, he is one of the reasons I'm into wrestling. Now, I don't want to talk about too much about my history with wrestling, because I think that's a story for another day. But I feel like with wrestling, with me, I got into wrestling, a bit later, around 2022-ish. 2022, 2023-ish, right? And I went into AEW instantaneously. Shock. But, that's more than changed. But I feel like when I was watching it, a lot of it was the two wrestlers that got me into wrestling, well, three, I will say. But there was three at the time, but mainly the two was, the main one of them was Kurt. And I've always adored Kurt since then. And, a lot of that was just due to the funny clips, the Rey Mysterio, you're a boy in a man's world. The dumbass smack, all the funniest of stuff that you just found the Kurt, and just how it continued, and you go down a spiral just the Kurt Angle. And as you can see from there, I've met Kurt at the con at Manchester last year. Last year, I think. No, it was this year. And I literally said, don't get me wrong, you're starstruck, you know what I mean? You don't, sit there and have a full conversation, but I just said to him, passingly, I said, Kurt, no bullshit, you are the reason I'm into it, you are the reason I'm here today. Without you, I'm not a wrestling fan. And he's obviously going, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. And, does he remember? No, of course not, fucking hell. But, I'm not one of those people who's oh, I just need to tell you how much, you mean, shit like that. But Kurt is different. Again, Kurt, very evidently, wrestling has very much took over my life as in terms of an interest. I've made a damn social media presence about it. A small one, but a presence. And it's it's all I do. Every day, multiple times a day, I talk or think. I'm thinking about wrestling every day. Every day. And there's no doubt. And again, this boils down, if you go down the thread, Kurt Angle is a huge, humongous part of that. And it's no exaggeration. And this isn't just talking about the in-ring stuff Kurt Angle has done, because we all know how good that is. Again, we covered the Kurt and Shawn match a while ago at WrestleMania, and I really enjoyed that. I did enjoy that a lot. And then we haven't even covered TNA Kurt Angle, and obviously we haven't even covered more WWE Kurt Angle. There's so much Kurt Angle to talk about, and I don't think Kurt Angle's one of those wrestlers now that's underrated. I don't think he's overrated, God, by no means. I feel like Kurt Angle's one of those wrestlers where, for a while, people go, oh my God, he's so underrated. And then, if everyone says you're underrated, you're not underrated. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't be underrated if everyone's saying it, because then at that point you are rated. And Kurt deserves that. Kurt, again, we don't even talk about the Olympic shit here. Kurt Angle's Olympic career alone is one of legends. You know, obviously, with a broken freaking neck. You know what I mean? Like, that's how good Kurt is. And then, Kurt Angle, I always say this, would have been, if you look at, like, the defining #1 crown in all of combat sports, is probably UFC champion. Kurt Angle would have been that if he was around. If at the peak of Kurt Angle's athletic prowess, and he went into UFC, he would have been it 100%. That's how good Kurt is. People like talk about, you know, the guy who likes to piss on people and shit on people, Brock Lesnar. You know, that sketchy ass guy. Kurt handled Brock like he was nothing when Brock was very young and roided out to hell. That's Kurt. Kurt was a freak athlete, and then just how he was managed to really mold himself into the business, and not from it in-ring stuff. That was always going to work because it's fucking Kurt Angle. But Jesus, it's the character of Kurt. He was a dork. He was a fucking arrogant dork. Kurt's character is so fun. He's the most fun ever. And it's like, Kurt's one of those characters where he was a smug piece of shit, but he was also just the biggest dork. Like, again, the whole Jimmy Crack Corn and I don't care, you know, the fucking, look at him rapping, obviously, the entire segment, promo, whatever, that sums Kurt Angle up as a character is the Rey Mysterio one. It easily is. Rey Mysterio, you're a boy in a man's world, and I'm a man who loves to play with boys. No, wait a minute, shut up. You know, that's Kurt. That is Kurt to an absolute T. The facial expressions, the humour of it, how the crowd reacts to him. The "you suck" chant for Kurt is one of the best things ever. It is, and that obviously comes from Edge too. But, like, how Kurt reacts to it, one of the first times, and you can tell Kurt genuinely made people crack just straight up. Like, he's just hilarious. Like, it's the one where, like, Kurt's arguing with Edge for that whole feud. And then Edge is on the ramp going, and you suck. And then Kurt goes, no, I don't suck. And then, you know, play my music to cut the segment, then realizes it straight away, plays the perfection of the facial expressions and goes, no, wait, don't do it. And Edge is on the ramp genuinely laughing. And the crowd's going, you suck, and Kurt sells it. It's how Kurt sells comedy is the best. I don't care. Take your R-Truths, take your fucking Danhausens. I don't give a shit, bro. Kurt is the man. And the fact that he was able to pull that off and then be the demon in fucking TNA and even WWE, nuts. Bro, I don't care. Kurt is the best at what he does. No one has ever, like, I think, to me, genuinely, and I've said this before, I've said this in this video, Kurt's the best comedy wrestler to me. Definitely he is. Because, for me personally, no one makes me laugh as much as Kurt. I just think he's hilarious. But then also, he's also one of the best in-ring wrestlers probably ever. And that's insane too, you know what I mean? And, like, that's what I love about Kurt. That's what I love, is, like, in any aspect of any part of Kurt's career, any times of his, you know, whatever, he is an all-timer, and undeniably an all-timer. It's not like I'm trying to think of a wrestler. Like, it's not like R-Truth. Well, R-Truth wasn't bad, but you know what I mean? R-Truth wasn't as well-rounded as Kurt. No, God, no. It's not like a Brock Lesnar, you know, where Brock couldn't cut promo to save his life. Shit like that. Like, Kurt is everything a pro wrestler should strive to be, and that is basically perfected around multiple categories, and realising that it's not just about one aspect of your game, it's about all of it. And Kurt really owns it on that. And yeah, I've got bias with this, but everyone's got bias with their all-time favourites, and Kurt Angle means a lot to me. A lot to me. And we do talk about, you know, obviously, shock, if you follow the page or whatever, we talk about AEW. We're very much an AEW-centred page, but I also try to go to the world of wrestling too. You know, obviously, there is more out there, shock. But you can never obviously deny WWE's impact on wrestling. And, you know, for better or for worse, it has definitely had an impact. And it's had some great talents. Kurt Angle is one of the top of that list. And honestly, for all these, you know, all the people that, you know, look at me, for instance, big fan of AEW, love old school ROH, trying to get more into CMLL, New Japan, Stardom, you know, all these multiple styles of wrestling. You do get introduced, a lot of people, you know, similar positions to me and who like this outer world wrestling do get introduced via WWE and always have an affiliation or, you know, some sort of fond memory with WWE. And Kurt is that for me. Even from a later aspect, Kurt is that for me. And I love Kurt Angle. And I'll never not love Kurt Angle. And again, the funniest man I've ever seen in wrestling. But fucking not. Again, bro, you forget John Cena. Like, as much as a legend John Cena is to a lot of people, John Cena is not John Cena without Kurt Angle, and that is insane. Insane, bro. And, like, that's not even, like, Kurt Angle's most crowning achievement. You can mention most Kurt Angle things he did, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, fucking hell, do you remember that? Like, that's how good Kurt is. Kurt, I cannot overstate how much the love for that man I have in terms of a wrestler. I can't. He's the funniest. By far, he's the funniest. You know, just any... Marty Jannetty still can't walk. Like, fuck off. Eat your heart out, Sean. He's the piece of shit. And I just love him. And then remember the time where, like, he basically tried to take everyone on. And then basically tricked the Alliance and then was double champ. And then you also have the milk truck, obviously, with Austin. And then... just everything he did with The Rock always makes me laugh. Like, I love when The Rock come back after Kurt shaved his head. And it's one of my vocal stims, honestly. And The Rock goes, "Who in the blue hell are you?" And Kurt just looks shocked. He goes, "Hey." And then obviously goes, you know, The Rock's obviously got the fucking, you know, The Rock's looking at him and goes, "Oh, the A, that stands for asshole." And he goes, "The A stands for angle." It's like, it's just, Kurt's infliction with words is something that no one can recreate ever. It's perfected. What a work. One of the best the industry will ever see. I don't give a fuck. One of my all-time favorites, 100%. And just, God, there's not enough I can say about Kurt. It's very hard to whittle this down. I adore Kurt. And all-time, one of the best ever. I don't give a fuck. The best comedy wrestler of all time. Fucking Kurt Angle. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Kurt Angle. Yeah, one of my all-time favourites, clearly. And yeah, one of the best ever, undebatably too. What's your favourite Kurt Angle memory? Where does Kurt Angle rank about you? What's your favourite Kurt Angle comedy moment? What's your favourite Kurt Angle match? Let's just get talking about Kurt Angle, because for me, the guy is the guy. He's one of my favourites. Brian's my favourite, obviously. But Kurt is just someone I've got such a fondness to, and yeah, just one of the best ever. I don't give a fuck. I love Kurt with all my heart.